كلية الفقه الحنفي تقدم.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. So today what we'll do is, because I appreciate that the discussion we had in a previous lesson of return to fixed Quranic shareholders that are related through lineage, this discussion is, at the beginning is fairly easy, but the last rule is pretty tricky, is quite, it's quite a bit to remember what to do. So what we'll do today is I'll give you more exercises. I'll give you a lot of questions, different scenarios to just get through. We'll do the answers together so that you can practice and remember how to do all of the rules. So we'll go through all of the Rad rules, all 4 of them, and we'll give examples for each one. Remembering, I will obviously remind you of how to do it, the procedure to do it. Try to follow I would say necessarily, I stress on following the procedure, following the method that I've taught you, because when you learn this method, then inshallah it gets easy. You don't forget it. You tend not to forget it, because when you, and obviously when you teach it as well, if you're going to teach it to somebody, then teaching it this way, it becomes very easy for the person who doesn't understand maths very well, who doesn't understand numbers very well. They have to just follow rule 1, this is what you have to do. Rule 2, this is what you have to do. Rule 3, this is the steps you have to take. Rule 4, step, and you've got it. You've got the answer. So anyone can work it out. Otherwise, what happens is, if you have a good maths brain and you can work the numbers in your head and you can do other things, then to explain that to somebody else who doesn't have that understanding of working with numbers, it gets too complicated for them. So then explaining in other ways, which you can do, and I see that there's many books that do explain it in different ways, it's too complicated for my liking anyway. It's very, very easy if you follow the way I've set it out here, and if you follow the rules, then it's just step by step. It just goes, it all complement each other. And also, if you notice previously, when we do other things besides Rad, we do the same kind of method when we are distributing to, for example, the wife plus the 2 parents, and we did a similar method, if you remember, drawing lines. And also later on, when we discuss in the next lesson, when we talk about how to distribute the actual property, then you will also see that the same methodology is being used to explain how to split up the money and everything as well, if there's money involved. So, inshallah, if you follow the procedure, if you follow the method, like I've explained, it will be, inshallah, it's something foolproof, you can say, trial and tested. Many people, if you do it this way, will remember how to split up this when it comes to Rad. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. So now we are going to continue with the return to fixed Quranic shareholders discussion. So we talked about this chapter in regards to how to return, why we return to fixed Quranic shareholders, meaning the 4 rules that we discussed as well, and we've gone through examples for each one. Now, appreciate that the final rule is a little bit trickier. So today what we'll do is we'll do a little refresh by giving you a few more examples, and inshallah you can go along with me in practicing with these examples, and that will inshallah help you to refresh and also to solidify what you've already learnt. So here we have example 3. The deceased leaves behind a husband, a grandmother, and a uterine sister. What happens in this scenario? So to reveal the answer, the husband receives, because there's no children, receives a half. Grandmother gets her 1/6, and a uterine sister also gets 1/6. So as normal, we see group 2, 1/6 and 1/6, and group 1, a half. So we just use that half denominator, 2 multiplied by 3 gives us 6 as our divisor. So husband gets half of that 6, which is 3. Grandmother gets 1/6 of the 6, which is 1. You transistor gets 1/6 of the 6, which is 1. We add it up, totals 5. 3 plus the 2 there is 5. So we know that this is a rad mas'ala now. So that's why we have to do this stage to even see whether it's a rad mas'ala or not. Now that it is, we know that, so we do following the steps. We split the husband up. We draw a horizontal line to separate out the husband here to the spouse. That's why it's always important to remember when I said that there's an order of writing the heirs. You always write husband or wife first. You see why? Because if we need to separate them out, it's easier to do so. So then we draw the horizontal line depicting the new working out, and also gives us our cross section that we need if we need it. Then we make the scenario from the husband's divisor. So the husband's divisor is 2. So we cross out the 6, make it from rad of 2. Husband gets half of that 2, which is 1. Then we have 1 left over, so we write that 1 at the cross section. Then the next step is we write the ratio between the shares of the remaining heirs. So the remaining heirs, grandmother and you transistor, here they've got 1 and 1. So the ratio between them is still 1 and 1. So we just write it there just to follow procedure. It remains to be the same. And then we add it up. Okay, we add up the ratios. 1 plus 1 equals 2. Then we see if this 2 here, is it the same as the mini divisor? And it's not here. So now we're going to have to follow those steps. We get that 2 and we use it as a multiplier for our divisor, our new divisor, the rad divisor here. So we do 2 times the 2 rad one. So 2 times 2, and that gives us our new divisor, the rad divisor, which is 4 now. Then we use that 2 to multiply the spouse's share 2. So we use this to multiply the spouse's share. Spouse's share 1 times the 2 multiplier. That gives us new spouse's share, which is 2. Then we use the 1, the mini divisor there. We use that to multiply each ratio share. So we use that to multiply the 1 there. So 1 times 1 is obviously 1. And we use this same mini divisor to multiply the other share, the grandmother's share, which is still 1 times 1 is 1. Now we add it all up to see whether it equals correct. So we do 1 plus 1 plus 2 equals 4. And we see that our divisor is also 4. So we know we are correct. So this is, in a very simple way, the most simplest way with the most simplest numbers that we can have. And we've understood this scenario, hopefully. Let's do another example. So here we have wife, grandmother, 2 daughters. What happens in this scenario? Now to reveal the answer, the wife, because there's a daughter there, gets 1/8. Grandmother, because there's grandmother would get 1/6 anyway. And the 2 daughters will get 2/3. Now we see that there's 2/3 and 1/6 from group 2, 1/8 from group 1. So we just use the 8 multiplied by 3, gives us our divisor as 24. 1/8 of 24 is 3, 1/6 of 24 is 4, and 2/3 of 24 is 16. And when you add it all up, 16 plus 4 is 20, plus 3 is 23. So our total is 23. So we know that this is a rad mas'ala, meaning this is a mas'ala where we need to return that 1 share left over to the fixed Quranic shareholders that are related through lineage. So we do as usual, because there's a spouse here, we split up the spouse, we draw our horizontal line, we cross out our old divisor, and we make the new divisor from the spouse's denominator. So that's 8. So rad of 8 now. We give the spouse, the wife, her 1 share, because 1/8 of 8 is 1. And then we write the remainder 7 as a mini divisor, because we know that 7 we're going to have to distribute between the grandmother and 2 daughters in proportion to their shares. So how do we do that now? We see the ratio between the 4 and the 16, the shares of the grandmother and the 2 daughters. So we see 4, how many times does it fit into 16? If you can't work it out, it's easy. So you do 4, 8, 12, 16. It fits 4 times. That means 16 is 4 times bigger than 4. So the ratio is 1 to 4. So 1 here and 4 there. Hopefully this is getting easier now. Then next step, we add it up. 4 plus 1 equals our 5. And then we see whether that 5 here, is it the same as the mini divisor 7? It's not. So now we're going to have to follow through and do the rest of the steps. If it was the same, we could have just left it there, because the amount that we've given out is the same amount that we had left over. Hopefully people understand that. We'll do more examples of that later on. So anyway, coming back to the scenario here, we've got the 5 as our multiplier. So we multiply the 8 on top with the 5, gives us our new divisor of 40. Then we use the same multiplier 5 and we multiply the spouse's share. So 1 times 5 is 5. Then we get the mini divisor, the 7, and we multiply the ratios that we had, the shares. So 4 times 7 is 28. And we use the same mini divisor to multiply the 1 here, the grandmother's share. So 1 times 7 is 7. We add it all up. So 28 plus 7 is 35, plus 5 is 40. And we see that our divisor at the top, the new divisor, is also 40. So we know we've got it right. And like I said previously, if the divisor and this total are wrong, all right, then that means you know you've done something wrong. So this is how you tell, and how hopefully things will become easier. So we can carry on doing so many examples. I'm sure you can work out examples of your own now and try to just do. So now let's just give you random examples where we do our review as normal for this whole entire section that we've done. This return to fixed Quranic shareholders related through lineage, which is the Rad bidawil furud and nasabi. So let's do one example quickly. We have 2 agnate sisters. What happens in this scenario? To reveal the answer, 2 agnate sisters will get 2/3. It's fairly obvious it's a Rad scenario, but if you follow the procedure, it's easy. So 2 agnate sisters get 2/3. We would make it out of 3, because the denominator is only 1 fraction, is 3. 2/3 of 3 is 2. We know it's a Rad mas'ala because there's still 1 left over. What do? We cross out the old divisor. We make the scenario from the amount of people there are. So now there are 2 agnate sisters. So we just make it Rad of 2, and we give each one 1 share each out of the 2, and it's done. So this one is very easy when there's only one type of fixed Quranic shareholder, excluding the spouse. Now the next question, we have a mother and a daughter. What happens in this case? Revealing the answer, the mother, because there's a daughter there, gets 1/6, and the daughter gets a half. So we have group 1 and we have group 2. So we just use the half, the denominator, the 2, multiplied by 3 gives us our divisor as 6. Mother gets 1/6 of the 6, which is 1. Daughter gets a half, which is 3. We add it up. 3 plus 1 equals 4. So we know it's a Rad mas'ala. It's where we have to now give out those two shares. Now, because there's no spouse, we don't have to do much here. This is where we simply cross out the old divisor, and the total that we have already given out, we make that the new rad divisor. Reason is because when we make the divisor smaller, then in proportion the shares that we've given out will become bigger, right? Because we're dividing the property up into less parts. So instead of the property being split into 6 parts, we're going to divide it into only 4 parts now. So each part will be worth more. So the mother will get that 1 share, but it will be worth more. Likewise, the daughter will get 3 shares, it will be worth more. So obviously, eventually, we've given out the right shares with dividing the property up into right amount as well. So this is the easiest way, just changing that. Next question. Mother, daughter, and uterine brother. What happens in this case? Now, revealing the answer, the mother, because there's a daughter there, gets 1/6. The daughter, because there's only one of her, gets a half. And the uterine brother will be blocked because of the daughter, because there's a descendant of the deceased. So we see there's a half and a 6 again. So we use that half again, the 2, multiply it by 3, we get 6 again. Mother gets 1/6 of the 6, which is 1. Daughter gets a half, which is 3. And obviously uterine brother got nothing. So 3 plus 1 is 4. We know it's a rad mas'ala. We simply cross out the 6. Because there's only fixed Quranic shareholders from lineage, there's no spouse, and there's more than one type. So we will simply make it from the total shares given out already. So the rad will be 4 again. And it's all easy. Next question. We have daughter, granddaughter, and paternal grandmother. What happens in this case? Revealing the answer, daughter gets a half. Granddaughter gets 1/6 because there's a daughter there, only one daughter there. And the paternal grandmother gets her 1/6 too. So we see there's group 2, 1/6 and 1/6, and there's also group 1, which is a half. So we use the denominator, the 2, multiply it by 3, get our divisor as 6. Daughter gets half of that, which is 3. Granddaughter gets 1/6, which is 1. And the paternal grandmother also gets 1/6, which is 1. We total it up, which is 5. We see there's a rad mas'ala here. So we cross out the 6, and because there's no spouse, we simply make it now out of 5. So everyone's share will become bigger proportionately. Next question. Husband, 3 daughters. Oops, that's it. What happens in this case? So we'll reveal this answer, right? So we have husband gets a quarter because there's a daughters there, and daughters get 2/3 because there's 2 or more of them. So we see that there's group 2, 2/3, and there's also group 1, a quarter. So we just use the 4, multiply it by 3, gives us our divisor as 12. So a quarter of 12 is 3. 2/3 of 12 is 8. We add it up. 8 plus 3 is 11. So we know it's a rad mas'ala. But there's a spouse this time. There's a husband here. So we have to separate him out, draw our line. We make the new divisor out of the spouse's share, like we always do when there's a spouse there. So we make it out of 4, rad of 4. We give the spouse their share 1. And there's only one type of shareholder on the other side, so we simply give the rest of it to them. No need to write it as a mini divisor here, because we can just give all of it to them. There's only one type of people. So then now they will divide that 3 shares amongst 3 daughters, so therefore they'll get 1 each. So we see, add it up, 3 plus 1 equals 4, just to make sure that we've got it right. And that's our rad mas'ala there. It wasn't made out of, the divisor is made out of 4 as well. So we know we got it right. Next question. Wife, agnate sister. What happens in this case? Now to reveal the answer, the wife, because there's no children, gets a quarter. Agnate sister gets a half. So we see that there's group 1 only, half and quarter, which is group 1 only, and we use the bigger divisor, the quarter, the 4 meaning, the 4, so we make that in as our divisor. So the wife will get 1/4 of that 4, which is 1. Agnate sister gets half of which is 2. 2 plus 1 is 3. We know this is a rad mas'ala. There's a spouse here, so we split the spouse up, draw our line to show the new working. We make the new divisor out of the denominator of the spouse's share, which obviously in this instance also turns out to be rad of 4. But it's important to write rad because we know what we've done here. We've done a rad here. So we give the spouse their 1 share out of that, and we just give the remaining 3 to the agnate sister. So this is total 4. Now, I appreciate there's a small numbers here. So even before we did any of this, right? So if a person felt that, at this stage, I've given 1 to the wife and 2 to the agnate sister, but I know the other leftover also goes to the agnate sister. Why do I just do that? Just make it 3. You could do that. It's right. It's not wrong. So you can just simply change this agnate sister into 3. And you've given out 4 shares to 3 people. You've given the rad to the right person as well, and it's all fine. But where it gets complicated is because when it starts becoming more people, if you don't follow the procedure of drawing this line, separating out, if you don't do that, then when it gets longer, more complex, then it will become more complicated and you will tend to forget things. Because this science, after having learned inheritance, most people forget it. Most people, they learn it very well. I taught many students who've learned it very well. I asked them a year later and they've forgotten it all. Okay, you can ask so many scholars who have learned it. They learn it and they forget it. The reason is because you don't learn it in a way whereby you can't forget it. If you learn it like this, you can't forget it because it's a one way, one procedure that you have to follow. That same procedure you keep following. So hopefully people can understand and appreciate why I'm stressing so much to do it in this way. May seem a little bit tedious, but there's a reason why we're doing this. We'll do another example. Another question here. We have wife, 2 daughters, and granddaughter. What happens in this case? Revealing the answer. Wife, because there's daughters there, gets 1/8. 2 daughters, because 2 of them get 2/3. And the granddaughters, because there are already 2 daughters who have already got their 2/3 share. So remember, the daughters, the granddaughters, these people are allocated a maximum of 2/3. The daughters have already taken that. So there's nothing to give to the granddaughters. So they're going to be blocked here. Had there been 1 daughter getting half, the granddaughter would have taken that 1/6. Right, anyway, so here we have 1/8 and 2/3, 2/3 from group 2, 1/8 from group 1. So we just use the 8 denominator, multiply it by 3, we get 24 as our divisor. Wife gets 1/8 of 24, which is 3. 2 daughters get 2/3, which is 16. And obviously granddaughter gets nothing. We add it up, 16 plus 3 is 19. We know that this is a rad mas'ala. So we split up the wife, draw our horizontal line, start afresh. We cross out our 24 old divisor. We make it out of the spouse's denominator, which is rad of 8. We give the wife her 1/8 share, which is 1. And we write the remaining, because there's nothing else. There's no other person besides the 2 daughters. So the remaining, we just write it under there, 7. The remaining will go to the daughters. So 2 daughters will share out 7 shares, in essence 3.5 each. And the granddaughters will receive nothing. Total is 8, 7 plus 1. And we know we've got it right because the rad divisor is also 8. Now moving on to the next question. This time we have wife, a daughter, and a granddaughter. Now, revealing the answer, wife gets 1/8 because of the daughter. Daughter gets a half. Granddaughter this time gets a sixth. So we see that there is 1/6 from group 2, half and 1/8 from group 1. So we use the bigger denominator, the 8, multiplied by 3 gives us 24 as our divisor. Wife gets 1/8 of 24, which is 3. Daughter gets a half, which is 12. And the granddaughter gets 1/6, which is 4. We add it up. 12 plus 3 is 15, plus 4 is 19. So we know it's a rad mas'ala. So we separate out the wife first, as we always do, and we draw our horizontal line to show a fresh working out. We cross our old divisor and we make the rad from the wife's denominator, which is 8. Now we give the wife her 1/8 share from there, so we give her 1. And we write this time, because there's two categories, 2 different categories. There's daughter as well as the granddaughter. So we write, this time we have to write it at the cross section, whatever is left over, mini divisor. So there's 7 left over from the 8 once we've given 1 to the wife. So we write that at the mini divisor. Now we see what the ratio between the granddaughter's share and the daughter's shares are. So we see how many times does the smaller number fit into the bigger number. 4, 8, 12. 3 times. So we know that 12 is 3 times bigger than 4. So we do the ratio 3 and 1. So once we do that, we add it up. We do the 1 plus 3 equals 4. Then we see the 4, this sum, it's not the same as the mini divisor 7. So we're going to have to do our multiplications. Are we going to have to use this 4 as our multiplier? So we first multiply the rad divisor at the top. So we do the 8 times 4. That gives us 32. Then we use the same 4 multiplier and we multiply the wife's share. So that 4, we use it to 1 times 4. And that gives us new share for the wife is 4 out of the 32. Then we use the 7, the mini divisor, and we multiply the ratios that we drew up for the granddaughter and the daughter. So 1 times 7 is 7. And 3 times 7 is 21. Now we add it all up to make sure that we are correct. So 21 plus the 4 is 25, plus the 7 is 32. So we see that at the top, the rad new divisor was 32, and we've given out 32, so we know we are correct. So hopefully people got that one right. If you did get it right, then you know you're along the right lines, inshallah. Next, we do another example. Husband, daughter, granddaughter. What happens in this case? Revealing the answer. Husband, because there's a daughter there, gets a quarter. Daughter gets a half. And a granddaughter gets 1/6. So this time we see there is group 1/6, group 2, but there's also a half and a quarter from group 1. So we use the bigger denominator, the 4, we multiply it by 3, gives us 12 as our divisor. Husband gets a quarter of 12, which is 3. Daughter gets half of 12, which is 6. And the granddaughter gets 1/6 of 12, which is 2. We add it up. 6 plus 3 is 9, plus 2 is 11. So we know this is a rad mas'ala. So the first thing we do, split up the spouse, draw a horizontal line, and cross out the old divisor. Now we make the new divisor from the spouse's denominator, the 4, we write rad of 4. We give the spouse their one share from that, because a quarter of 4 is 1. And then we write, because there's two groups again, there's daughter and granddaughter, we write the mini divisor, which is the leftover at the cross section. So we have now 3 to give out between the daughter and granddaughter proportionate to their shares, half and 1/6. So how we do that? We see the ratio between the 2 and the 6, the shares of the granddaughter and the daughter. We see how many times the smaller number fits into the bigger number. So we see 2, 4, 6, 3 times. So we know 6 is 3 times bigger than 2. So we write the divisor. So we write the new, ratios being 3 and 1. So because it's 3 to 1. We add it up. 1 plus 3 equals 4. And we see that the 4, this new sum, is not the same as the mini divisor 3. So we're going to have to now multiply again. So we use the 4 as our multiplier. We multiply the rad divisor by the 4 multiplier. 4 by 4 times 4 equals 16. We use that same multiplier 4 to multiply the spouse's share. 1 times 4 is 4. Then we use the mini divisor 3 to multiply the ratio. So 1 times 3 is 3. And we do 3 times 3 is 9. So we add it up. 9 plus 3 is 12, plus the 4 is 16. And here we go. The rad divisor at the top was 16 as well. So we know we've got it right. Next question. The more questions we do, the more, inshallah, you will get used to this. We've got wife, uterine sister, and mother. What happens in this case? Revealing the answer. Wife, because there's no children, gets a quarter. Uterine sister gets 1/6, and mother gets 1/3, because there's only one type of sibling here. So we see there's 1/3 and 1/6 from group 2. There's a quarter from group 1. So we use the 4 multiplied by 3 gives us 12 as our divisor. A quarter of 12 is 3. 1/6 of 12 is 2. And 1/3 of 12 is 4. We add it up. 4 plus 2 is 6, plus 3 is 9. So this gives us understanding that this is a rad mas'ala. So we see there's a spouse, there's a wife here. So we split her up first. We draw the line and we cross out our old divisor. Then we make the new divisor from the spouse's, from the wife's denominator here, which is 4, so that this is a rad of 4. So the wife gets 1/4 of the 4, which is 1. The uterine sister, we write the remainder, which is 3, as the mini divisor, the cross section. Then we write down the uterine sister and mother's ratios. So we see 2 and 4, so the 2 fits in twice, so that means 4 is 2 times bigger than 2 times bigger in terms of the ratio. I think they've got it wrong here, so I'm just going to correct it quickly. Right, here we go. Right, so this is where we were. So the ratio between the uterine sister and the mother, we have the uterine sister is going to has 1 and mother's 2, so 2 to 1, yes? So we add it up. 2 plus 1 equals 3. And then we see that the 3 here, the 3 as our multiplier, this 3 is the same as the 3 as the mini divisor. Because they're both the same, there's nothing else to do, because this 3, the idea is this 3 was the leftover after giving the spouse. This 3 is being divided here between the mother and the uterine sister. So because we have divided it between them, then we don't need to do any multiplication. Plus, if we see next, we see that this 2 plus 1 plus 1 equals 4, and this is the same as our rad divisor anyway, so it all adds up. There's no need to do anything further here. Let's do another example. So if we have husband, daughter, and maternal grandmother, what happens in this scenario? Revealing the answer, husband, because there's a daughter there, gets a quarter, daughter gets a half, grandmother gets a sixth. So we see 1/6 from group 2, half and a quarter from group 1. So we use the 4 bigger denominator and multiply by 3 equals 12 as our divisor. Quarter of 12 is 3, half of 12 is 6, and 1/6 of 12 is 2. We do 6 plus 2, 8 plus 3 is 11. 11 means that this is a rad mas'ala now. So we split up the husband, draw a horizontal line, cross our old divisor, make the new rad out of the spouse's denominator, which is 4. Give the husband his 1/4 out of the 4, which is 1. And then because we've got 2 separate categories, you say daughter and grandmother, so we have to write the remaining at the cross section. So we see the ratio between the 6 and the 2, 2, 4, 6, it fits in 3 times. So the daughter is 3 compared to the grandmother 1. We add it up, 1 plus the 3 equals 4. We see that the 4 is not this 4 multiplier, this sum is not the same as the mini divisor this time. So we're going to have to multiply. So 4 times that 4 there on the top is 16. 4 times husband's share is going to be 4. Then we use the mini divisor, multiply with the grandmother's 1. 1 times 3 is 3. 3 times 3 is 9. We add it up, 9 plus 3. 9 plus 3 is 12, plus 4 is 16. So we know we've got it right because our new rad divisor was 16 and total is also 16. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillah wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah. So alhamdulillah, today we did a lot of examples for the scenario of rad, where we are returning to the fixed Quranic shareholders that are related through lineage. Now, if you remember the whole concept of rad, it was directly opposite to where we're making the divisor bigger in the awl scenario. So where we are making it bigger, that's what we discussed previous to this discussion. So when you've given out too much, you have to make it bigger, and how to do that was very easy. This one, in comparison, a bit more work to do. Okay, and before that, we talked about the actual shares of the fixed Quranic shareholders. Before that, we talked about going through a lot of theory of categories of distribution. We talked about when a person is blocked from inheriting, the different types of, when a person is completely blocked as opposed to a person who is deprived of inheriting. All of this we've talked about in detail, if you remember, just to recap over what we've actually done. Now, what we'll do for the remainder of this session, we'll just give you one more example. Hopefully this one should give you a little bit more complexity. So let's see. So you've got wife, daughter, granddaughter, and mother. So what happens in this case? To reveal the answer, if you can get this one right, hopefully any other scenario you should be able to get right. So wife is, because there's daughter there, 1/8. Daughter, because there's only one of her, gets half. Granddaughter, because only one daughter, gets 1/6. And a mother also gets 1/6 because there's daughter there. So we see that there's 1/6 and 1/6 from group 2. So we use the half and 1/8 from group 1. We use the bigger denominator, the 8, multiplied by 3 gives us 24 as our divisor. 1/8 of 24 is 3. Half of 24 is 12. The 1/6 of 24 is 4. And another 1/6 is 4. So we add it all up. 12 plus 4 is 16. Plus 4 is 20. And plus the 3 is 23. So this now tells us this is a Rad scenario. So we split up the spouse first, draw our horizontal line as usual, cross our old divisor, and make the scenario from the spouse, meaning the wife's denominator, which is 8. So Rad of 8. We give the wife her 1/8 of 8, which is 1, and we write the remaining at the cross section, which is 7, as our mini divisor. Now we see the ratio between the remaining heirs. So we have 4 and 4 and 12. So we see how many times does the 4 go into 12? 4, 8, 12, 3 times. So we see the daughter is 3, granddaughter is 1, and mother's 1. So we add it all up. 1 plus 1 plus 3 plus 3 equals 5, you see. So we see the 5, this multiplier now is different to the 7 mini divisor. We're going to have to use this 5 to multiply everything. So we use the 5 to multiply the 8 at the top, the Rad divisor. So 8 times 5 is 40. We use the same 5 to multiply spouse's share. 5 times 1 is, or 1 times 5 is 5. We use the mini divisor, the 7, to multiply each person's fraction now, each person's ratio. So we start with the 3 first. So we 1 times 3, 7 times 3, or 3 times 7 is 21. The 7 times the 1 is 7, or 1 times the 7 again is 7. So then we add it all up. Okay, so we add it all up. So 21, we add up 21 plus 5 is 26, plus the 7 is 33, and then plus another 7 is 40. So we see that total is 40. We've given out 40 here, and our divisor at the top is also 40. So alhamdulillah, we can see we've got it right.